There's something about the Patriots that makes the other teams screw up. Opposing coaches and players, especially in January, for one reason or another, all tend to fall victim to this aura of invincibility that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick project. I don't mean to say that they don't believe in themselves, because of course they do, but far too often we see these teams go up to Foxborough and completely abandon their own identities. Coaches try to surprise Belichick or trick Brady by doing things they don't normally do, and usually the end result is that they remove themselves from everything that got them to the playoffs in the first place. This past weekend, we saw that phenomenon occur once again with the Jaguars. Jacksonville players talked all week long as if they had the keys to defeating the Patriots. They have two all-pro cover corners, arguably the best pass rush in the NFL, and a bruising run game that could keep Brady and company off the field. On paper, at least, their confidence was warranted. But on game day, when it really mattered, all of that talk was useless. The Jaguars players may have gone to the AFC Championship as confident as ever, but to me, it was clear that their own coaching staff was scared out of their minds. Look no further than the Patriots' first drive of the day. New England had worked their way into field goal range largely on their ability to pick apart zone coverages, but when it came time for the first third down opportunity of the game, the Jaguars went into man. New England flexed Rob Gronkowski out wide as a coverage check, and when they saw free safety Tayshaun Gibson on Gronk, they knew the coverage was likely cover one man. Knowing it was man coverage, that gave Brady the green light to try to hit Chris Hogan on the rub concept, which was only brought down short of the sticks because Jalen Ramsey is a certified freak of nature. That right there scared the crap out of defensive coordinator Todd Wash, because he knows that New England's bread and butter is rub routes, and if they're able to identify man coverage just from alignment like that, they can punish them with rubs all day long. That fear was then compounded one snap later on 4th and 1 when the Patriots went into empty formation. Once again, that alignment was used to identify man coverage because you had Telvin Smith on James White in the slot, so Brady knew he had the rub route to Amendola all the way. Telvin was late identifying the pick on Aaron Colvin, so he was late in his switch responsibility to then pick up Amendola, which then gave the Patriots 20 yards basically for free and kept the drive going. Again, this terrified Todd Wash. His biggest strength as a defensive coordinator all season long was relying on his corners to man people up while he threw all sorts of fancy blitzes at quarterbacks. But if the Patriots could identify those coverages through alignment and then expose them with rub routes, they could punish Wash repeatedly for that game plan. So instead, he completely abandoned it. And this is what I see happen every time the Patriots chew teams up in the playoffs. They identify what you're good at, what your strengths are, what your comfort zone is, and then they scare you out of it. They challenge that strength head on and test just how committed you are to your own philosophy. In the first half of this game, before the 2-minute drill where the Patriots started scoring, the Jaguars ran man coverage 31% of the time and only gave up 23 passing yards on 50% completions on those man coverage snaps. Meanwhile, they ran zone coverages or combo coverages 69% of the time, gave up 60% completions in those snaps and 66 yards, a full 2 yards higher per attempt. That is a massive difference. In short, the Jaguars were a lot more effective in man coverage than zone coverage despite those two successful rub concepts on the first drive. From the last 2 minutes of the first half until the end of the game, however, Wash used man coverage less and less because he was not confident that they could stop the rub concepts. For the rest of the game, the Jaguars only ran man coverage looks 25% of the time, and out of the 221 yards that Brady threw for in that time span, those man coverage snaps only allowed 22 of them. So that means that despite playing man coverage 25% of the time, that man coverage only gave up 10% of Brady's total remaining pass yardage. I know that's a lot of numbers to digest here, but it's pretty damn clear that the Jags were way more effective in man coverage, but just decided not to use it. They were scared out of utilizing their biggest strength, arguably their best defensive calling card, for fear that they would be exploited. That's a big mistake by this Jacksonville coaching staff, and the players thought so too. After the game, Jalen Ramsey said in regards to how to beat the Patriots, play man, put some pressure on him, mix it up. I don't know because we didn't beat them, I don't know. Meanwhile, his running mate AJ Boye blasted the play calling as well, saying, "We just started playing soft, we started calling more zone, and they just knew what we were going to run. We were running back-to-back the same calls, and they just had beaters for it." These two corners were rightfully pissed about how this game was coached. You don't beat Tom Brady by playing soft zone coverages and hoping that he makes a mistake while keeping everything in front of you. Brady doesn't make mistakes. That's like intentionally fouling Larry Bird and hoping he misses the free throws. It just will not work. The way to beat the Patriots is to not make it easy on them. Play press coverage, get pressure up the middle, and challenge his receivers to win one-on-one within a 2-second window. The Jaguars, like I said, are perfectly built to execute that game plan, and yet they just refuse to do it. Once Todd Wash saw those rub routes, it's like he lost all confidence in his defense to execute proper switches or change their depth and alignment to deal with those rubs, which are things that they did perfectly all season leading up to that. Why he thought he had to abandon his best chance to win, I'll never know, but he did it anyway. The fourth quarter of this game in particular was just a travesty. Jacksonville started the quarter up by 10 points and they were almost home free. They just needed 15 minutes of good play calling and they would have won this game. Instead, on 17 Tom Brady dropbacks in this quarter, they played pure zone coverage 12 times and pure man coverage only twice. Brady had 0 passing yards against those 2 man coverage snaps and 158 passing yards against all other coverages in one quarter. He more than doubled his total passing yards in 15 minutes because all the Jaguars were playing was zone. Of those 158 yards, 99 of them came against the coverage shell that I think AJ Boye is referencing in his post-game criticisms, cover 4. Cover 4 is a quarters coverage, meaning the deep zone responsibilities are divided into quarters of the field. It's meant to stop the deep passing game and keep everything in front of the secondary, but one of its main weaknesses is that quarterbacks can just very easily throw any route in the playbook that is run underneath those deep zones. For Boye in particular, he gave up 36 yards on consecutive targets when Brandon Cooks simply ran a deep curl underneath his zone. And while he's credited with giving up the catch and it makes him look bad in the box score, there's really nothing he can do about this. Curl routes are about as automatic as it gets against a deep third or a deep quarter zone, so it's really not his fault. That's just the Patriots recognizing the coverage shells that the Jags were using and calling plays to exploit them. Later in the quarter on 3rd and 18, again the Jags are in cover 4 because they're just trying to keep everything in front of them, but here's the thing about cover 4. While it does theoretically limit the deep passing game, it doesn't shut it off completely. There are still plenty of weaknesses that can be exploited deep if you know that it's coming, and the Patriots absolutely saw this coverage coming because it was damn near the only one Jacksonville was running at that point. In a cover 4, the safeties are critical. Their biggest responsibility is matching up with the number 2 receivers downfield with no help. And by number 2 receivers, I mean the second receiver lined up from the outside. Brandon Cooks is the weak side number 1 here, while Danny Amendola is the weak side number 2. On the strong side, Philip Dorsett is the number 1, while Dwayne Allen is the number 2. The safeties are basically counting from the outside in. The outside corners take each number 1 receiver in deep zone responsibility, while the safeties take each number 2 receiver on both sides. So, on this 3rd and 18, that number 2 responsibility put Tayshaun Gibson head-to-head with Danny Amendola deep downfield. That's the Patriots' quickest and most reliable remaining receiver against maybe the Jaguars' 4th or 5th best defensive back. This is the matchup that the Patriots wanted, and it's one that they knew they were going to get if they put Amendola in the slot against cover 4. James White and Dwayne Allen both try to chip to help in protection because they want to give Brady time to make this throw. Everyone knows before the ball is even snapped that they're going to Amendola on this play because they know that he's going to cross Gibson's face and he's going to get to his spot over the middle. They know he's going to be there, and they know that Gibson is in a vulnerable position to get beat one-on-one. You can even see Brady move Myles Jack with his eyes just to give Amendola that much more space to track this ball in. 100%, this play was going to him from start to finish because the Patriots knew the coverage and they knew what to call to beat it, just like Boye said in his post-game comments. This was 3rd and 18. If Jacksonville called pretty much any other coverage, they could have gotten off the field, gotten the ball back, chewed some clock, and maybe punched their ticket to the Super Bowl. But instead, they gave up this 21-yard gain, and 4 plays later, Amendola caught a touchdown to put New England back within 3. The media have been dogging on these Jacksonville players for crapping the bed in the 4th quarter after being so confident in the week leading up to the game, but this was not their fault. They executed the coverages their coaches called for them, but their coaches were flat out calling the wrong coverages. As soon as they went into essentially prevent mode while only being up by 10 points, this game was over. Belichick and Brady smelled the blood in the water, they smelled the fear and the conservatism, and they just knew this game was over. Hell, you could argue that the Jaguars lost the second they went to the locker room at halftime without even trying to score more points. There were 55 seconds on the clock, the Jags had 2 timeouts left, and they only needed 37 yards to get into field goal range. Why the hell did they not even try to go get more points? Fear, that's why. Doug Marrone was afraid that Blake Bortles was going to go 3 and out or throw an interception or do something else that might cost them their momentum, and by being too afraid to go win the game, he lost the game. Could you ever imagine Bill Belichick or Tom Brady kneeling the ball with 55 seconds left and 2 timeouts? Hell no, and that's why they're going to Minnesota and Doug Marrone is not. This entire AFC Championship was like a clinic in what not to do against New England. They were afraid that the Patriots were going to take away their strengths, so they just never used their strengths at all. They were afraid that Tom Brady was going to come back, so they played as safe as possible and let him do it anyway. They were afraid that Blake Bortles was going to lose them the game, so they prevented him from having a chance to win it. I know that this is a young, inexperienced team that's still trying to figure out how to be good, but I think I just expected more out of a franchise run by Tom Coughlin. This is a man who beat Belichick twice in the Super Bowl by not coaching scared. In fact, the Giants under Coughlin were one of the few teams that actually bullied the Patriots. When the Pats were the unquestioned kings of the playground, players like Brandon Jacobs and Michael Strahan walked up, punched them in the mouth and said, "What are you going to do about it?" And because of that mentality, they won. I thought that the Jags of all teams that are built like a Coughlin team with Leonard Fournette and Jalen Ramsey and Calais Campbell and all of their other talent, I thought they might be able to punch the bully in the mouth, and shockingly, they refused to do it. So here's a word of advice for the Eagles, since they are now the only other kid left on that playground. Don't play scared. Don't coach scared either. Do what you do best and only adjust if you need to, because if you start changing your entire identity and throwing out everything that you believe in just because you might lose the game, trust me, you will lose the game. So you do you, they'll do them, and we'll see what happens, because no matter what, if you win or lose the fight, at the very least, you'll go out swinging. Thank you so much for watching the first of 2 preview episodes for Super Bowl 52. I've always found the mystique around the Patriots so fascinating. It happens at least 3 times every season where that New England factor or that Tom Brady factor, whatever you want to call it, at least 3 times a year, they will get a win just from that fourth quarter magic. And it's insane to me how after all these years, it still happens all the time. And if you think that the Pats have one more Magic Sunday in them this season, or maybe you think that the Eagles are the perfect team to end that streak of comebacks, our weekly sponsor, the BetDSI Sportsbook, has a great offer for all Film Room viewers. Simply going to betdsi.com and entering in promo code FILM25 when you register will get you a free $25 in wager credits to use on betting the Super Bowl. The Pats are 5-point favorites as of me recording this, so it's a pretty good line to bet on if you are a believer in the Eagles, which, judging by my comments, I know a lot of you are. So, if you want to win some cash and you want absolutely nothing to lose because it's free, head on over to betdsi.com, enter promo code FILM25, and go make some money. As for me, I will be back again next week with a more Eagles-centric Super Bowl preview. I personally still can't believe they even made it this far without Carson Wentz, but that just goes to show you how damn good of a coach Doug Peterson really is. He is easily my coach of the year, like not even close for the job he did. And I'll get a bit more into that next week when that preview episode comes out. So I'll be seeing you again next Thursday or Friday-ish. Not sure which one yet because I have no idea how long that episode's going to take to make. But until then, whenever that may be, later.